Hey, Jess.
Hi, Allison.
How are you this afternoon? Well, it's not your afternoon yet.
Not yet. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good too, thank you. I had a wonderful walk in the forest again. It wasn't too wet, so that was really nice.
Wonderful. Wasn't too
Yes,
wet.
wasn't too wet.
Raining over there?
Sorry?
Is it raining over there?
It has been, which has been really nice. We're lucky, I think. Because everything looks green, often by this, although it's not August yet. I mean, it is today's the 1st, but yeah, it's good because usually we don't get much rain in July, and then August is so dry, even though it's humid as hell. It's weird. So that's good. Okay, so what have you got for today?
I was thinking of our manual. Yeah.
Yes, me too.
Good. So in the manual, uh, been like, what do we need to have that ready to go?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
So I've been thinking about it in terms of the group program.
the what?
And the group program. So there are two, right? There's what you're developing, and then there's the one that I'm involved in. And so I see them as being a little bit different, not necessarily in the model, but in the content, perhaps, maybe not, I don't know. So if they're not different, then I think there'll be slightly different wording with the introduction, maybe. I started just as a very small intro. I did some voice recordings while I was walking, so I'll send those to you later. And then I'm going to try and get those transcribed. Okay, so if the two groups are going to need just very elementary, small booklets, which I think would actually be fine, then I still would like to develop further, but there's already enough material, I think, in terms of what you've done. That one section that you did about unaware, there is so much in there. There's a lot in there. If we were to look at publishing it for people that aren't in the group, for instance, and just having it on Amazon, in the mental health section, coaching section, whatever.
Yeah. I think it's a resource is where it comes in, and then we do whatever we want from it after we test a resource on it. Yeah. So I think a tool in which people can work with, manage with, use, and continue to refer back to is the key to that, I think. So.
Okay, so then what comes to mind for me, Jesse, is then I think we need to do it more as a workbook format, right? Because that's where you get what you want people to have in terms of an experience. So there are exercises built into it and space made for people to write.
And that be in the context of journaling.
Yeah.
You've got journaling, you've got daily planning, you've got all
Mm,
sorts of categories, tags, right, that you could assign underneath of that.
mm. So I when I asked Bruce how he what he used, what software he used to publish his book, because he's got little diagrams, even in his meditation book, and he said he used Word,
Mhm.
which I was quite surprised about, because I thought he'd used another publishing format, but it was Word.
I think when we find it's like, oh, we want to do a workbook, let's do a workbook with it. I think there's plenty of templates out there that we could agree on, right? Then it would be just plugging in the information to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Heck, even one of those, bet you that AI stuff because this would be under the education aspect of it.
That's what I was also thinking. I mean, that's what I was looking for, but I as I said to you, I couldn't. There was too much in that video.
Let me take that. I'll take that on
I
to
couldn't
find the
keep up.
content to see. Now that it's like, I think a workbook, a journal, productivity. I think a workbook is our best. To just aim it as a workbook, and then workbook journal / because there's people that are searching for that type of stuff, right?
We can put it under finding your genius.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's all sorts of different places that we can start to put it. It's getting it out, practiced, usable. In our community, I think people that are in that is a good one, because they're advanced beyond it, but they could think back as if a beginner in it. And even some talking with it are like, oh, I'm out of practice with it. It's like, that surprises me.
Well, that's kind of what can happen, right? You can fall off the wagon, as it were, if you don't practice it daily, if you don't have connection in practicing it.
Mm-hmm.
If you are too comfortable with what was, that's what can happen.
And this story is like, oh, I've got it, right? There it is, or I know, or any of those. It's way too easy to fall back into the old habits and patterns.
Oh yeah.
Which I think it's like this workbook would be to support that morning call, or the morning call to support the workbook.
Yeah.
Not that it has
Yeah.
to be that. That's how it's like building inside, like for me, connecting into it.
Yeah, I feel the same. And that's why I said, the two, like, if I think about it as a PDF, because I think that if I've got a PDF ready for the group that I'm working, it will be sufficient, and then to keep on building on it, because I can keep on changing it.
Mhm.
From from the feedback that we get, because that group will be a little bit different to the morning group, and in a way the two could complement each other really well. That's what I was.
Yeah. That's what I think that's the intersection. That's the intersection of it. I think there's plenty of people out looking for something different, but different, they don't know what different means. And not until you see it, or is it brought into existence, does it say like, oh, that difference makes sense. And because like, I mean, not that we're going around asking, well, I'm looking for something different.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So what came to me was, again, use Jenny's term of the blind, blind flashing obvious, BFO, she calls it. Because as I was walking, I was thinking, okay, so, you know, what would I write in the introduction? And as I was talking about it, what came to me, you know, I was so pleased because the languaging was right there in terms of that this booklet is there to facilitate being able to recognize the coordinates of the structure of the model of uncovering your genius. And I'd never been able to language that to myself before. So that was nice for me. I finally kind of got it. Got what? No more to get? No. But still, it was a good feeling for me.
Mhm.
And then there was, I spoke about words and their use and their limitation. And what else was there?
You know, well, something that you could, two things is, one, you could either send me the video file, right? Also something to do is even in the Google documents, the Google Docs, there's a video voice recording. Are you familiar with that?
No,
Where
I was
you can,
wondering about that.
yeah, you can
Okay.
record it and it'll transcribe it for you as well. And Descript is another one that does a pretty good job of transcribing them. There's a lot,
So
there's free ones anymore.
yeah, Jess, I did it on the voice recordings on my phone, and I've got an iPhone. I'll ask Bruce. He's usually pretty good with this kind of thing, and see if I can transcribe it like that. But I'll also share them with you. They're not long, and you know how slow I talk. They're like 3 or 4 minutes at the most at a time. Yeah, I'll like I said, I'll send that afterwards. But it was mostly just about, I think for me, what was nice is that because I got what the purpose of the book was for, I could start speaking to some of the processes already. And I could summarize the important words in terms of the structure of the model. And then, yeah, it was just very quick summaries, but also just, I think I linked things a little bit differently. So, and it's not all part of what will go into the intro. You know, definitely not. I think the intro needs to be short and succinct, so they just know what this is about.
Yeah, no, it's have it all there and then weed through it. Yeah, pull out the things that need to be there. Excuse me.
And what was interesting for me also was when I was talking about the purpose of why did we develop this model, just about being able to be in your power. I didn't use that word actually, so that's a good one to bring in, to be in your power no matter what the situation and circumstances were. And then I used contrasting words, and I used whether there is light or challenge. And then just in the way that I had phrased it, what I realized as I was talking through is that there is always light. It's about our receptivity to it, right? So that's I'll rephrase that somehow. Won't be all that difficult. But that was also interesting for me, just to catch, right? And to catch where the limitations are for the time being. And just the power of the awareness of that. I think that for me has been demonstrated more and more with the few people that I've been able to work more and more of the model with. Because if we keep our awareness going, somehow our bodies collaborate with that awareness. Kind of also was thinking just again about, that I have the privilege of time at the moment. And ironically, I have that because of my illness. And because I have that, I can go right down to the fundamental level. And I guess my belief is that the more fundamental I can go, the more clarity I get, the better I can listen. When people come in with a very busy basket of what's happening in their daily interaction with life, even because they have to work to put food on the table. And it's much more challenging to start there. It's the same as when you are in the throes of, sorry.
So what's much more challenging when you start there? Pressure is what I hear.
Yeah, and density. Density of experience. So there's not as much space And I think the skill is to be able to recognize that density, to speak to it, to form the bridge of understanding, which then creates a connection. And through that connection, you get to lead in your facilitation. Because that connection quietens the mind.
When you got a quiet mind, what does that do?
Gives space and allows for the experience of the vibration. The experience of the heart, right?
Experience of the truth.
Oh, yeah. That's how I see it. But I'm always a little bit nervous about proclaiming that I've gotten to truth.
Well, there's two truths, right? There's the truth of what is and the truth of as it is.
That's a very good distinction to make. Keep that one, Jess. That would be a very good one to write about. Because that's writing about the light always being present, but our receptivity to it is less open, so we don't see it, we don't experience it.
Yeah, well, we do, we experience the truth that we're making up about it, and then the truth of what it could be. It's that the difference between the structure, the difference between the two.
So that was something else that I also was talking through, was that in a creative structure, you allow for momentum. It's inherent in a creative structure. In a problem-solving structure, you're blocking momentum because there's inherent in it, there's the belief that you can't move forward until the problem is solved. And then, of course, there's always the focus on the problem, which increases the energy of the problem. But if you're in a creative structure, you're tweaking things. And that was the other thing that came to me as well, was when you're experimenting, you're coming with the energy of curiosity. When you're trying, you have an expectation of the outcome.
That's good. The charge, it's like the charge of the action. You know, it's like curiosity has a charge versus trying has a charge.
Mm.
Charge is the energy. Charge is always the energy. And this is, when it's the connection I see with this Beats software, is that it's getting people to see that, oh, there's something in the frequencies, there's something in the energy, there's something in the listening of it, and there's something in my listening I'm missing.
And listening gives experience.
Say more about that.
Yeah, everything gives experience, but it's a more open experience when you listen. There's more space. There's more receptivity.
More is in a contrast, so they're listening more than what?
Perhaps when you lock it down to create something, but an even bigger contrast is when you're sure that you have the answer. So listening as opposed to speaking, which we've said before, right?
Yeah, that's where I was at, was in the contrast of listening versus speaking.
Mm. Mm. And again, it's just to have the awareness of it. It's not to shut the speaking down.
No. It's to notice the tendency.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is always the charge.
Yeah.
It is always pulling, creating the action in it.
And in that, there's also that need to know when we speak.
So is that a direct correlation?
At times, yeah. I mean, we also speak when we ask questions, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was thinking, I was like writing a claim, and that is that we think we hear other people.
We only have a small part of them, right?
It's, are we really just hearing what we want to hear?
Absolutely, it most definitely is influenced. It, there's no doubt about that. It's that whole thing about the observer forming a creation. Because anything that gets observed changes as it is observed. So there's got to be a lot of awareness around. It comes back down to that thing of both and. You know, and the other day when I was talking about what I learned in terms of how having a framework is like having a map, but to really understand the territory, you really have to stay in the now, because that territory will change. And so then ultimately the map begins to change as well. But I don't know that we can really. It's like we have to go through that to become, to break through it. And I think that's just the nature of our bodies, right? We are, if you think about it, our spirits, which you could talk about as your soul, is resident in the body. And it collaborates with what the body creates in the time that it is alive. And then when it leaves the body, it leaves with that, with the imprinting of that creation, of that life.
And memory, that
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. And that's kind of imprinted in the vibration.
When you like speaking of the model, what model is it for you?
Yeah, I was also thinking. The model is a way to uncover the reflection of what you are. That's where it leads to ultimately. That's been my experience of it. And that you experience that reflection more and more. And why is that useful? Well, it's useful because the unconscious then recedes more and more into the background. Because your identification, your underlying identification changes. And it changes from identifying yourself with the personality and the unconscious to identifying yourself as part of the universe and as a reflection of it. You know, what did I think about when I was walking? Something about accepting limitation, which is like working with a frame, but also realizing that that limitation is momentary. It's, you know, it's not fixed. Nothing is fixed. So everything can be used as a stepping stone. But there is also this, and I feel I feel quite strongly about this too, and that is when, you know, when there's a thing about, oh, you just have to do this and then this is going to get you there. And for me, that doesn't give acknowledgement to everything that person, for want of a better term for me, that electromagnetic field that has manifested that body has got a different path to follow in this lifetime. Mm-hmm. And that there needs to be an honoring of that. And if you can just get people to honor that for themselves, you know, that gives space, right? Mm-hmm. Because for me, there's too much emphasis on, well, if you do this, then that's going to happen. All you have to do is do this. So the word could is hugely important, I feel.
Well, and it comes back to people want to be told what to do,
Yeah.
and they don't.
Yeah, because they feel lost, right?
They think they do.
Mm.
And so what we look for, put attention on, go for, buy, spend our time, invest in, is from what someone else told us we should be looking for.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, there's all of that. So maybe that's something that's important that I do put into the introduction. That our journeys are really all very unique and they're all to be valued.
And that is what we look for with each other. Like that's what we're listening for.
The value.
The genius, the journey, the uniqueness.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
So space is always in speaking and listening. Like that is just what we do. We can listen to others, we can listen to ourselves.
Mm.
There's so much.
I know. Yeah, I think that.
But there's fundamentals, there's keys.
Yes.
With a manual workbook, where would we start? Where could we start?
Mm. I feel like starting with the understanding of, with communicating the understanding of what we think we fundamentally are. Not who we are, but what we are. And you keep on inviting the reader to reflect on what is true for them when they read it. So it's like you begin with the end in mind, right?
So is it who we think we are or who we
experience ourselves to be?
as in the limited or the expansive?
Oi. It's a very relevant question. So we can speak to that, you know.
No, because
You just stated. So if you just think of your word this morning, Jesse, believe. And you give the awareness that this is what you believe. You could do that. I like the yoga language, which is more about the experience than the belief, right? And you can cross the bridge with it, or you can create bridges, you know, because most religions speak to what it is that we are created from. I mean, the Judeo-Christian language around that is, you know, to have been created in the image of God. Although I don't know if that's Old Testament or New Testament. I don't know my Bible. And I'm not sure with Muslim. I can certainly check that out with my community. Otherwise, we've got to think of something else. But that's kind of what we've worked in the group. You know, that we are consciousness. I mean, my meditation teacher always used to say, you meditate, you become a better Christian, a better Jew, a better Muslim, better whatever you identify with.
what are some things that we think we are? I'd like a list of them for a quiz.
Oh, that's
Starting position.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Jesse. I love that. Okay, so we can say we'll start off with light, sound, dust to dust, stardust, and I suppose you could say created in the image of God.
I would tie that to light.
Mm. Mm. That's all I can come up with for now, but I'm sure we can increase that list.
It's like that gives like the fundamental. Now it's kind of like bridging it into more of like our specific situations as we see it. It's like, do we think we're limited? Right, wrong, good, evil,
Mm. Mm.
poor, rich, weak, strong,
Mm.
victim, powerful.
Yes.
And all those are doing is triggering, giving trigger words that we can sit and be just like, look at what does that mean in your life?
Yes. I like that very much. That's really nice. I had a beautiful paragraph by a therapist that died of MS, and I knew her. Where's your book? Where's your book? Oh man, what do I do with it? I had it yesterday. I'll find it. She wrote the most unbelievable epilogue to the book. Yeah. You know, and it was when you spoke about limited that when you used that word, and her verbiage immediately came to mind. Mm. She spoke about how she wished that she had been able to have the realization, the experience of the realization that she got by the end of her journey, because it would have prevented so much of the suffering that she went through. It was really beautiful. And spoke to that, and that ever alive, that immortal part of us. What I was also thinking, Jess, that I would really like to do is that we have an email address where people can write, give feedback on their experience of the book.
Mhm.
You know, because if we manage to do it inexpensively enough, which Bruce did, and his books haven't sold. That's the only thing, and it's a pity because that meditation process is really so succinct and so there's that aspect to it. But if we have it in a simple enough and adjustable enough format, then we can, you know, do a new edition every 2 years kind of thing. You know, which would be really nice, right? We include testimonials from people about what their experience was, and so I don't know if we want to do it with emails or maybe even set up a website then where people can write in like that, you know, or on the even on the channel, right, on your YouTube channel. Just something. I'm not sure exactly what format.
We'll plan on having a dedicated. We'll have at least a page set up for it, right? That it can be a resource. Think of it as a, you know, it's a part of the benefits that people get for whatever they're signing up for, getting involved in, or including. So, yep. Now, what is Bruce's book? What's his book?
It's that meditation that works, 5 easy steps. And his anagram is relax, RELAX.
Meditations that work, and where you can buy it on Amazon?
Yeah, I sent you the link, but a long time ago.
Mhm.
And I also put it in Heart-Centered Creators.
Hmm.
I'll send it to you again. The thing that I can't find, that he said he's got a recording of him, you know, leading the meditation.
Uh-huh.
And he's got a great voice, but I couldn't find the recording when I went to look for it. And then I told him, I said, can't find the recording. He said, oh, well, you'll go and put it in bold. And then I haven't double checked with him again, but I'll go afterwards and
Yeah, that'd
ask him
be,
to
I
give
mean, let's
me
use,
the.
there's an asset there. That asset feeds you guys. It's like, let's draw it right towards it.
So Sindrell must have found the link to the thing because she commented on the sound that she heard and she asked other people to comment.
Mm.
And nobody else did it, I don't think, because nobody commented on it.
Mhm. No, now it's relevant to include.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's, you know, it's an option for people, right?
Mhm. Now meditation is taking off now, you know.
That people do it more as visualization, right? Which is different.
They do more what?
Visualization.
It works for some
Oh,
people.
yes, and no, it does. There's definitely place for both. There definitely is. I mean, I use both, but most people talk about visualization as meditation, and it's not. It's not the same thing. In meditation, you're listening. In visualizing, you're creating, which is amazing. But they're different.
Yeah, definitely two different skills, and that's
Mhm.
interesting. One, it's like listening to yourself of what to create. Otherwise, you're just problem solving your creations.
That's right. Yeah. That's a really good way of putting it, Jess. It's a really, really good way of putting it.
All right. Well, I'll take a stab at creating some sort of 2-page workbook. Yeah.
2-page, my God, you're succinct.
Well, there's always the manual on the other side of it, right? There's the manual behind it that gives the specifics. I'm thinking about like the processes,
The
the
exercising.
yeah, the exercise, if you will. It's like what to expect kind of thing. And knowing that people can't hold their attention for too long.
Mm. 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 If you get into a ritual of 5 minutes a day, you start building on that.
That's how many people do that.
I know.
As easy as it is, yeah, but that's the key. I mean, 5 minutes a day and 5 minutes of what? And starting with something little.
If you can translate awareness and have an exercise, I mean, it's fundamentally really easy. But I feel like if we can get people to start just with that.
I think the majority, past, present, future, or majority of your charge, like both of those work really well. It's just something would have to trigger which one they're going to go into first.
Well, you can put those two first. And every day that you manage, you have to give yourself kudos, points, right? For having been able to do that.
That's the accumulation of them, yeah. Accumulating the points, accumulating the. That's good. I think there's an easy place to do that. But putting all the things ahead of what getting people to it. Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, good. Well, thank you.
Thank you too, Jess, very much. Have you got time tomorrow still too?
Yep. Do that tomorrow. Okay. So we'll follow up again tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'll do what I can with the transcribing. And as I said, I just started with an intro, so I'll share that obviously.
Good. That'll be an intro that'll frame what comes after that with it in the exercises. How
the other projects going?
All right. Yeah, so. We finally got product to test, so we're testing the product we've been waiting on. I got to wait on another product. I got a backup product if that one's not as good, and I'm not doing the testing, so I'll rely on my partner to do that. And just as we go through it, just see the obvious limitations that slow everything down. So all in process, all in purpose, all in, for whatever reasons, they're where they're at.
I know. Did I send you that article that was in the Washington Post on the, they call it the AMOC system, the currents. It includes the Gulf Stream. It's just about the collapse of that,
Hmm.
you know.
That doesn't ring a bell.
Okay, I'll go and look. I might have it, might have put it in an email that
Email?
I haven't seen.
I can look. I can. It may. Yeah. Was it while I was on vacation? And because I know you put a few of them
No.
together.
Yeah,
went through
no,
those.
I didn't send emails while you were on vacation.
No, just the ones that you put together. I can look for you here and see what's there. So how long ago was that?
It was only in the last like 5-6 days that the article was in there. I can't remember now whether I did send it or not. But it just, the reason why I thought it would be useful for you is just because they talk about the
It is.
importance
It is
of
in the
reducing.
email. It's just
Is
down
it?
below the, yeah, it's, I
Okay, great.
stopped at Charles Einstein is where I stopped.
Okay, so I added it to that one. Yeah. Do you know of him?
No, I hadn't heard of him.
He's very interesting. There's somebody else that you might enjoy. I found him very intellectual. But he's contributed a lot. And his name is Ken Wilber. And he, you know, it's all about consciousness and how to apply it in the world. And without mentioning structure, that's basically what he addresses. He doesn't use the term.
Yeah.
That's basically what he addresses, because he, you know, he's looking at the paradigms that we work with, right?
Yeah.
And that structure.
Ken Wilber. Wilber?
Mm. Mm.
Looks familiar for whatever reason.
Yeah. And Einstein addresses more of the Eisenstein, sorry. I mean, since he was really young, like he started writing and talking out about social structures, like he was in his early 20s, you know, and he started this shared economy thing before the apps, you know, the so-called shared economy of Uber and all that stuff, which not shared at all, of course.
Right.
But he started circles of that, and I was part of one in South Africa and one here in the beginning. And it was amazing because it gave people a format, you know, to benefit from whatever anybody had. So it was good work. I think I'm sure there are still groups around. And it was all aimed at reducing waste, you know, and reducing consumerism. It was kind of a pushback to that.
Of course.
Mm. Okay.
All right. Thanks, dear. Have a great rest of the day.
You too.